Greetings, class. I wanted to do this tutorial on the week 4 lab. And so if you go to your week 4 module, you'll see the week 4 lab instructions. So you want to click on that. And then you want to download your week 4 lab instructions. For this particular lab, you do need to print out. You don't have to print out the whole lab, but you do need to print out this page because you're going to need this figure for one of your tests, for your test on turbidity. All right, so make sure that you're able to print it out. If not, if you don't have the capability to print it, then if you have like a tablet or on your phone and you just so that you can set your graduate cylinder on top of it so that you can check your turbidity. Okay, so it's very important that you're able to check the turbidity of your different water samples. So if you're able to print it out, that would be perfect. All right, so you're going to download this and I'm going to bring that up. Okay, there we go. All right, so these are the instructions for the lab for this week. Before the instructions, I want to stop sharing just so that I can show you the equipment that we're using. Okay, so you have this container that should have come with your lab kit, the water monitoring kit. In there, you have these test tubes. So these are the test tubes you're going to use for this particular lab. And then you have this little baggie that has the caps in it. Okay, so you're going to need that. So this is the cap for the test tube. Okay, and there are markings. It's kind of hard to see this. I don't know if this camera will pick it up, but there are markings. Let me see if I turn on the light, if you can see that a little bit better. There we go, a little bit better. So there are different markings on here, and those are the volumes, 5 mil, all the way up is 10 mil, and then there's 2.5 mils. Okay, because it's gonna tell you in the book. This is your water kit book. So you need this as well because this is going to give you the instructions for your nitrate. Okay, it gives you instructions for nitrate. And that's on page 21. Gives you the instructions for pH, which is on page 23. And then it gives you the instructions for phosphate, which is on page 25. Okay, and it tells you which volumes you need to put in for your water. So for nitrate, you were going to use 5 mils. Okay, so you're going to go to that 5 mil mark, which is that halfway mark on your test tube. And then, excuse me, also in there is these little tabs. Okay, so you have all these little tabs that measure your different parameters. So you have tabs with for nitrate. Okay, they're little tabs. You're going to take them out. You got one for phosphorus. You have dissolved oxygen, which we're going to measure later. And you have one for, I've used up all mine previously, but the one for pH. All right. And so you're going to have all these little tabs. And they are going to help you measure your different substances. Okay, so, and then you have this little chart. Okay, it's a nice chart. So you're gonna go by the color on the chart to tell you what your nitrate is, what your phosphate is, and on the back, what your pH is. Okay. The turbidity one we're not going to use for this particular lab. We're going to do a different method for turbidity, okay? But you are going to use this for your nitrate. So your nitrate and phosphate are in ppm, so parts per million, and you're going to go by the color that you get, and you're going to match it. You're going to do a close match, the closest match to this, okay? These are going to tell you what your water samples are measuring. Okay, and you're going to do this for each of your water samples. So you have your different water samples that you were filtering from last week. Okay, so these are those water samples. So take those out of the refrigerator. They should be in your jars. Okay, so I have the lid to my jar. There we go. All right. So this is just tap water for me. Okay. But yours should have your different filtered waters. Make sure you're testing not only your filtered waters, but also your dirty water. Okay, so you should have a jar for your, you see, you should have 6 filtered waters, and you should have one jar of just the dirty water. And you want to do the measurements for all of those. And so you should you should have about 4 of these different tubes, but you can, when you're measuring from one sample to the next, you just want to take, pour out your sample, take a little distilled water, okay, or purified water, either one. If you have a bottle of purified water, that's perfect. If you have like a water filter in your refrigerator, you can take some of that water, or if you just have some distilled water you got from the store, take that, and you want to make sure that you rinse these out in between tests, okay, and pour it out. You do not need to dry these tubes. Very important that you do not dry these tubes because the fibers in either a paper towel, napkin, or a towel will get into the tube and it will throw off your sample and throw off your test. So it's very important you do not dry these. So just rinse them out with a little distilled or purified water, pour it out, and then start your new sample. Okay. Some safety precautions for this particular lab I do want to go over. You do want to make sure that you're wearing gloves and that you're wearing your goggles. Okay. So make sure that you do have those 2 safety precautions intact. For this demonstration, I'm working with just tap water, okay? But you do want to make sure your goggles, if you wear glasses, I do want to show you, because I wear glasses, I also wear contacts, but I wear glasses generally when I'm in the lab. Your goggles will fit over your glasses, so very important. You want it to be snug with your face because you don't want anything, fumes or anything, to go in between the goggles and get to your eyes. Okay, important. If you are wearing contacts, okay, anytime you're in a lab setting and you're wearing contacts, we advise that you don't, okay, just simply because fumes could get trapped in your contacts and your contacts will seal to your eyes and it'll be hard to get the contacts out to rinse your eyes properly. Okay, so we always say don't wear it. If you have some of these fit over glasses, this one doesn't. I have thicker glasses today, but you can wear safety glasses as well. Okay, those work just as well because most of our samples for this particular labs are water samples. Okay, so it's not dangerous chemicals that we're working with. The little tabs that do the measurement don't give off fumes, and so it works pretty well. Okay, just to give you a heads up. All right, so that is for your phosphate, your nitrate, and your pH. You also want to measure the temperature of your water because generally when we're doing water treatment and we're doing tests on water treatment, the temperature makes a huge difference on your results as well as on what you find in the water, okay? Because different temperatures do affect it. You should have gotten a thermometer. I can't remember if your thermometer was the short or the long thermometer. Let me show you the long one just in case. We're gonna go to my lab. Okay. All right, welcome to my lab supply area. Okay, so you either got this thermometer or this thermometer. Can't remember which one came with the kit. Okay. But one of those you should have gotten. If you did not get a thermometer, please let me know. Okay. Because you will need that. All right. So I'm going to look with the short thermometer and I'm going to open up my jar of water. All right. And so you're going to put it in, just put in the thermometer and whatever it reads, that is your temperature. Okay. With laboratory thermometers. You don't have to shake them. You don't have to wait a long time. Just as long as you see that little red line inside here. I don't know if I can. Okay, there we do. There we go. All right, so whatever that red bulb is on, that is what measures the temperature, okay? And so it's measuring the temperature of the air, which right now is 20, looks like 23 degrees Celsius. Okay, these are all measured in Celsius. In a lab setting, we use Celsius temperatures and not Fahrenheit. Okay, so very important to note that. All right, so it's 23 degrees Celsius. If I put it in the water, it is reading, my water is reading 24 degrees Celsius. Okay, and so each of the little lines are one. Okay, 1 degree. And so in between the 20 and the 30, that bold line would be 25. And then each of those lines in between the bold lines are just 1 degree. Okay. And so you're going to read that. Once you have finished with your thermometer, you do want to dry it off. Okay. Just with the tissue or napkin, paper towel, and then put it back in the holder. Very important. This little rubber thing on the end, it keeps it from, I did that and then you couldn't see what I did. Okay, so if you lay it down, the little rubber thing on the end, it keeps it from rolling around. Very important because you don't want to break your thermometer. These are alcohol thermometers, so if it does break, okay, glass shatters. So just be careful because glass, when it shatters, you know, if you've broken a glass, it goes everywhere. So you want to make sure you clean it up. This is an alcohol thermometer, so it won't be dangerous. You can just clean up the liquid with a paper towel if it happens to break. Okay. All right. Mercury thermometers are no longer used for student lab setting. We still use them for barometers and so forth. But for student labs, we only use alcohol thermometers. All right. So let me go back to the instructions. So we're going to go back and share. All right. So going back to the instructions, this tells you a little bit about nitrogen, phosphorus, little background information, what levels should be present for those particular parameters in water. It also tells you about temperature and turbidity as well as pH, so good background information. This is the information you want to put in your lab report for the introduction. Very important. So you remember when we're doing our lab reports, we do not want to copy and paste from the instruction sheet. We want to read this information and put it in our own words. Okay, so very important for that. All right, and so then we get to the safety. I always go over safety because safety is very important. So we want to wear our safety goggles, like I said before. We want to wear our lab apron. So you should have gotten a lab apron with your kit, okay? And excuse me, it should have come with your kit, including the test tabs. So natural water samples can contain harmful kinetic contaminants and organisms. And so very important that you are wearing your gloves, okay, and your safety goggles. Um, so you're going to read all instructions for the laboratory activities before beginning, and then follow instructions closely and observe established laboratory safety practices, including the use of appropriate per personal protective equipment. That's your PPE. So your PPE, remember your lab goggles, your gloves, and your lab apron. Okay? You don't want to eat or drink or chew gum while performing these activities. Very important. Okay? because if any fumes or anything comes off, if you're chewing gum, you're going to trap those fumes in your gum and you're going to digest them. Okay. So very important. No eating, drinking, or chewing gum, eating candy, none of that. All right. You're going to wash your hands with soap and water before and after performing each activity. Because we're working with water treatment, okay, it's very important that the oils and things in our hands don't get into our water samples and throw off our results. Okay, so that's why you need to wash your hands before and after with soap and water. Okay, clean your workstation. We talked about that last week with your disinfectant. Excuse me. Or you can use soap and water for this particular experiment. Okay. You want to keep pets and children away from lab materials and away from the equipment. So, all your equipment that you need for this should be included in your kit, okay? With the exception of your 6 jars that you had of the filtered water, and remember your jar of the dirty water that you were filtering on last week. All right. So we're doing temperature, nitrate, pH, phosphate, and turbidity. So we talked about how we're doing test 1 through 4. You're going to go by the instructions that are in your kit in the booklet for 1 through 4 for your temperature, your nitrate, your pH, and your phosphate. Okay. Go by what the instructions tell you to do. Remember, you're using this test tube with the cap for those, and then the little tabs that come with, okay, your little pack of tabs that come in your kit. All right. But then for the turbidity one, we are doing something different than what's in this book for turbidity. Okay. And so, for this one, you're going to need this, which is your graduated cylinder. All right. And it came with the base like this, but you can take the base off for that one. All right. And you need this page from your equipment. So basically, let me show you here. You're going to need that page because you're going to need that figure. All right. And what you're going to do is you're going to start off with 100 milliliters of water. And at the very top is a 100 milliliter mark. Okay. You're going to see the line for that. You're going to fill it up with 100 milliliters of your water from your jar. And you're going to look through the top of this. You're going to take the base off. You're going to line this on top of your piece of paper. Okay. So it's basically going to be like this. You're going to put that on top of there. All right. So let me stop sharing for a moment. Make sure you did see that. Okay, so you're gonna have your piece of paper with the chart. You're gonna just sit it on top, and you're gonna look through the top of this to make sure that you can see the pattern, okay, through the top of that. All right, so we're gonna go back to sharing. Okay, so once you have placed it on top, when you can see the pattern, so say at 100 mils of your water from your jar, you can see the pattern. Okay, you can see you're gonna look for these pieces of pie. It looks like a shape of a pie. All right, so a slice of pie. If you can see these dark slices of pie, then at 100 mils, then your turbidity is 29 NTUs. Okay. If you can't see it, you're going to pour out 5 mils of water. So you pour it back into your jar. Okay, so you just pour it back right back into your jar so that you have 95 mils in here. You're going to put it back onto this pattern. If you can see the dark pieces of pie, then you put 30 into you. If you still can't see it, you're going to pour it off again till you get 90. Then, if you can see it, 33, and so forth. So, hopefully by 25 mils, you can see it and it'll be 153, okay? If you can't see it by 25 mils, then just put on here, because you're going into the chart, Okay, this is where you're going to record your information. So you'll put what your water sample is, the volume, and then you'll put whatever the turbidity is from the chart. Okay, if you can't see it at 25 mils, then just say less than 25 mils and then put N/A for turbidity. Okay, but you should be able to see it by 25 mils. You may not be able to see it for the water for the dirt. You know what? I didn't put a space for the water with the dirt. So just do your 6 samples, okay? Or if you want to add another row in the chart, you are free to do that. And then you can test your dirty water as well. All right, so that's what you're going to do for the turbidity. And so that will be all of your samples. And so in this chart, you have 2 charts. So your data table 1, that is where you're going to put the sample, okay? And so whatever, remember you labeled your jars. So the label, the whatever's on your label is going to go here for water sample. Your temperature, you're going to measure your temperature, put that here, that's in degrees Celsius. Your pH does not have units, so you're going to put your pH value here. Your nitrate, which is in ppms, sorry about that. Your nitrate, which is in ppms, that'll go here. Your phosphates, which is in ppms, that value will go there as well. Okay. And then down here, like I said, you're going to put your water sample, your volume, okay, that you could see the pattern, and whatever that turbidity value is based on table 1. Okay. And so what you want to put, so this was your introduction, remember, because remember we're writing our lab report. So introduction is going to be that first section. You're going to put that information. And then your materials and procedures. Okay, that's going to be your next section. So you're going to put things like you used a graduate cylinder, you used the thermometer, you used your test tube, you use your monitoring kit. So all of those things, your phosphate, pH, and nitrate tabs. So all of that information, your turbidity chart, all of that goes in the materials and procedures. And you're going to do like an overview of what your procedures are, okay? What you did. You're going to put it in your own words. Remember, we're not copying and pasting any of this. So then we get to the results section. In the results section, you want to, this is where you can start doing some copying and pasting, okay, in your results section. So you want to copy your figure 1. You want to paste that to your lab report. Your table 1, you want to, that needs to be included in your results section. You also have 2 tables, your data table 1 that needs to be in your results section, and your data table 2 needs to be in your results section. You're going to be taking pictures, okay, in this lab. So you're going to take pictures of your pH, nitrate, and phosphate. Okay, so these pictures will be a student holding up the sample to the sample comparison chart. Okay, so this is your sample comparison chart. So you're going to take a picture of you holding up your sample to the sample comparison chart. Okay, and so you're going to take a picture of that. All right, those pictures need to be included, and you're going to include a brief description of the picture when you include this picture. So all of that goes in the results section of your lab report. Okay, so make sure those are included. Then your discussion is going to be answering these questions, just like you did for your week 3 lab report. You're going to do the same thing. So that's what you're going to be included in your discussion, the answers to these questions. Now, for the reference section, you only have at least one reference, which you're referencing these instructions, okay? And so just like you did last week when you referenced the instructions that were retrieved from your Canvas page, you're going to do the same thing for this reference, all right? And so that is how your lab report will go. So now I want to talk about disposal and cleanup. So you're going to pour your solutions down the drain with water running, okay? Allow the faucet to run a few minutes to dilute the solutions. They're water solutions, and they're all soluble in water, and so these things can go straight down the sink, no problems. You're gonna pour filtered water from the 6 jars down the drain with the water running as well. Allow the faucet to run a few minutes to dilute the samples. You're gonna rinse out all your containers and let them air dry. Okay. After they dry, you want to store all your lab equipment. All right. All unused material from the kit, you're going to put away back into your kit. You can store all of your test tubes and everything back in here. And then put them wherever you store your equipment. And then you want to sanitize your workstation with 10% bleach solution and wash your hands thoroughly, okay? And then this is how you can make those solutions, okay? Your bleach solution, or if you have a bleach spray, that works as well, all right? If you have any questions as you're going through the lab, please let me know, okay? Everything else should be self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, please let me know. Enjoy the lab.